Welcome to True Crime Case Files, where we delve deep into the dark corners of human nature and the crimes that shock us to our core. Today, we explore a chilling story set in late March of 2019 in Minneapolis. A tangled web of family secrets, betrayals, and forbidden love leads to the grisly murder of 34-year-old woman whose charm masked her troubled personal life. Jessica Danielson, 34, was a woman of contradictions. She lived in a charming Victorian home in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and taught part-time yoga classes at a local studio, helping people find peace and balance. Yet her own life was far from tranquil. Jessica had an undeniable charisma that drew people to her. She collected vintage perfume bottles, each carefully displayed on shelves in her home. She also had a habit of doodling intricate mandalas on napkins and notebooks during quiet moments, often while listening to 80s synth pop hits like A Has Take On Me. Beneath this creative and magnetic personality, Jessica harbored a reckless streak that led her to make risky choices, especially in her sex life. Despite being married to her husband, Marcus Danielson, a renowned chef of new Nordic cuisine, Jessica frequently sought sex with strangers. Late at night, after yoga sessions or evenings out alone, Jessica was known to visit upscale bars like Constantine or enjoy cocktails at the rooftop lounge of the Hewing Hotel. There she charmed men and women with her wit and beauty, leading to brief, secretive one-night stands. These risky behaviors hinted at her growing dissatisfaction with her marriage. Jessica's marriage to Marcus, though once passionate, had soured over the years. Marcus, a culinary genius known for his restaurant Oga and its famous $59 salmon toothpaste dish, had become emotionally distant. Jessica's discovery of his infidelity with multiple women, including some of closest friends and family, deepened her feelings of betrayal and despair. Her resentment was compounded by the influence of her domineering mother, Marlene Harrington, a former small-time grifter and larger-than-life figure in Jessica's life. Marlene, who collected wedding veils from her 13 marriages, often overshadowed Jessica, offering unsolicited advice and criticism under the guise of maternal care. Amid this emotional turmoil, Jessica entered a dangerous affair with Landon Prescott, her mother's 21-year-old husband. Landon, with his sharp looks and smooth-talking charm, was the polar opposite of Marcus. He fed Jessica's longing for attention, excitement, and especially risky and experimental sex. Their affair began subtly, with flirtatious exchanges during family gatherings at Marlene's home, a stately house filled with antiques and memorabilia she had inherited from one of her ex-husbands. It escalated quickly into a full-blown sex affair marked by secret rendezvous for sex and intimate, explicit texts. Jessica felt a mix of exhilaration and guilt about the affair, knowing it was a betrayal of her mother and a risky step deeper into chaos. In the days before her death, Jessica seemed conflicted. She confided in a close friend that she felt trapped in a web of lies and deceit, longing to break free but unsure how. She was preparing to confront Marcus about his infidelity and tell Landon she would end their affair, but she dreaded the fallout. Jessica's actions and choices left her standing at a crossroads, unaware of the tragic fate that awaited her. It was the morning of March 24, 2019, when Jessica Danielson's body was discovered. At 8:15 a.m., her neighbor, Karen Hargrove, noticed something strange. Jessica's porch lights were still on, even though the sun was already up. Curious, Karen decided to check on her. She walked over to Jessica's Victorian home on Emerson Avenue South, a quiet street in Minneapolis lined with historic houses and blooming trees. Karen knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Worried, she tried the doorbell, only to hear the faint chime echo inside. Jessica's car, a red 2016 Toyota Prius, was parked in the driveway. It didn't make sense for her to be gone. Concerned, Karen called Marcus Danielson, Jessica's husband, who said, in between what sounded like a woman moaning, that he hadn't seen his wife since the night before. He suggested Karen check inside, as Jessica often left a spare key under a potted fern on the porch. Karen let herself in and immediately felt uneasy. The house was eerily quiet except for the faint hum of a Spotify synth pop playlist coming from the living room speaker likely left on overnight, the scent of lavender candles mixed with the stale air. As Karen moved further into the house, she saw Jessica at the base of the staircase. At first glance, it looked like a tragic accident. Jessica was lying on her side, her head at an awkward angle, with one arm bent beneath her. Karen noticed a pool of dried blood near Jessica's head. She gasped and quickly dialed 911, her voice trembling as she described what she had found. Paramedics and police arrived within minutes. Officer Ethan Callahan, a seasoned investigator with a calm demeanor, was among the first on the scene. He spoke softly to Karen, who was visibly shaken, offering her reassurance while carefully asking questions. Jessica's body was initially assumed to be the result of a fall, possibly down the narrow staircase. However, the amount of blood and her lifeless posture raised questions. The scene was secured as forensic specialists arrived to examine further. Karen later described feeling sleepy and really sad as she sat on her porch, waiting for updates. Jessica's death was about to unravel a series of shocking secrets no one could have predicted. Detectives from the Minneapolis Police Department arrived on the scene by mid-morning on March 24, 2019. Lead investigator Detective Sarah Whitmore, 42, known for her meticulous approach and sharp instincts, took one look at the body and felt uneasy. "Something about it didn't sit right with my woman's intuition," she later admitted. Detective Paul Garza, her partner, a 39-year-old former military officer with a no-nonsense attitude, agreed. "It was too damn perfect," he said. Jessica Danielson's body was sprawled at the base of the staircase. Her head rested in a dried pool of blood, and her right leg was bent unnaturally beneath her. To the untrained eye, it appeared she had tumbled down the narrow wooden stairs, a tragic household accident. But Detective Whitmore couldn't ignore the absence of telltale signs of a fall. There were no scuff marks on the stairs, no broken fingernails suggesting a struggle to catch herself. The detectives cordoned off the area and called in forensic specialists. Technician Amelia Fan, an expert in blood spatter analysis, pointed out that the blood pool was too localized for a fall. "If she'd fallen from the top, we'd see blood along the stairs," Cross explained. During the initial examination, the coroner, Dr. Coraline Kwan, noticed something unusual. Jessica had a large contusion on the back of her head, inconsistent with a fall. "It's a single concentrated impact," she said, gesturing to the wound. Further examination revealed faint bruising on her wrists, suggesting she had been restrained before her death. The breakthrough came later that afternoon when forensic technicians inspected Jessica's upstairs bathroom. The lid of the toilet tank was missing. Detective Garza found it behind a shower curtain, smeared with blood and bearing a faint fingerprint. Testing later confirmed it matched Jessica's mother, Marlene Harrington. The discovery shifted the investigation into high gear. Detectives theorized that Jessica had been attacked upstairs, struck with the toilet tank lid, and her body later staged at the bottom of the stairs to suggest an accident. The positioning of her body was deliberate. Detective Whitmore described it as eerily posed. As the team pieced together evidence, a chilling picture began to emerge. The crime scene wasn't just the site of Jessica's tragic death. It was a carefully orchestrated cover-up. This realization left the detectives both disturbed and determined to uncover the truth. As the investigation into Jessica Danielson's death deepened, detectives uncovered troubling details about Landon Prescott, the 21-year-old husband of Jessica's mother, Marlene Harrington. Initially brought in as a witness, Landon quickly became a person of interest after police unearthed text messages between him and Jessica, revealing an illicit affair. The messages, found on Jessica's phone during a forensic search, included explicit exchanges and plans to meet secretly, often when Marlene was out of town. Detectives Whitmore and Garza began digging into Landon's background. They discovered he had met Marlene at a self-improvement seminar in Orlando, Florida, in late 2018. Landon, then a charismatic college junior, had been speaking on stage about overcoming the adversity of having been born with spina bifida and building confidence. Marlene, drawn to his charm and good looks, struck up a conversation after his presentation. Within weeks, the two were in a whirlwind romance, culminating in a wedding just 3 months later. The age gap minus 40 years raised eyebrows among friends and family, but Landon dismissed criticism, claiming their connection was something on the twin flame level. However, investigators soon uncovered a darker side to Landon's seemingly golden persona. His part-time business as a quote-unquote relationship coach was revealed to be a front for a cryptocurrency scam. Landon frequently posted shirtless motivational videos on Instagram and YouTube, pitching his exclusive investment opportunities to his growing fan base of horny middle-aged women. Detectives found that many of his investors had lost significant amounts of money in what appeared to be a classic pump-and-dump scheme. The cryptocurrency he promoted, called Ooga Coin, named after his new son-in-law's restaurant, had no actual value and disappeared from online exchanges within weeks of being introduced. When confronted about the affair and his fraudulent business during a tense interrogation, Landon initially tried to maintain his composure. He admitted to the relationship with Jessica, describing it as a mistake, but claiming it was consensual and ended weeks before her death. Detectives, however, pressed him on the text messages, which suggested Jessica had recently planned to end their affair and confess to Marlene. As for the cryptocurrency scam, Landon appeared more rattled. His smooth-talking demeanor faltered when Detective Garza presented evidence from victims who had lost thousands. "This has nothing to do with Jessica," Landon protested, visibly sweating. He claimed he was unaware the cryptocurrency would fail, insisting he was just following advice from his bros. Despite his denials, investigators noted his growing unease. His answers became defensive, and his once confident body language shifted to nervous fidgeting. While he stopped short of directly implicating himself in Jessica's death, his connections to the victim and the mounting evidence against him painted a suspicious picture. Detectives left the interrogation room with more questions than answers. Was Landon's relationship with Jessica purely about passion, or was there a deeper motive tied to money or control? As the investigation continued, Landon's web of deceit only grew more tangled. As detectives peeled back the layers of Marlene Harrington's life, they discovered a colorful history marked by manipulation and opportunism. Marlene, 61, had been married 13 times to both men and women over the years, with most unions ending in financial disputes. From a brief stint as a Las Vegas blackjack dealer to selling miracle health supplements through a multi-level marketing scheme, Marlene had always found ways to stay afloat. Her marriages often served as a means to an end, allowing her access to money, property, or social connections. Police records showed that Marlene's longest marriage lasted 3 years, while others dissolved in mere months. Friends and former partners described her as charming but calculating, someone who could talk her way into or out of almost any situation. This history painted a picture of a woman used to living on the edge, a small-time grifter with an uncanny ability to reinvent herself when circumstances demanded it. Her relationship with her daughter, Jessica Danielson, was no exception to this pattern of turbulence. The two had always shared a complicated dynamic. Jessica, described by friends as strong-willed but vulnerable, often clashed with her mother over Marlene's selfish tendencies and lack of stability. Marlene, in turn, resented Jessica's defiance, seeing it as a challenge to her authority. The revelation of Jessica's affair with Landon Prescott, Marlene's much younger husband, only worsened their already strained relationship. Detectives uncovered evidence suggesting Marlene had recently discovered the affair, including an explosive text exchange between the two women. Jessica accused her mother of prioritizing her own needs over their family, while Marlene fired back, calling her daughter ungrateful and reckless. When confronted by police, Marlene appeared outwardly composed, claiming she had been at a local church during the time of Jessica's murder. "I've been seeking redemption," she said, explaining she was attending services at New Life of the Graceful Savior Ministries to be, quote, born again. Detectives, however, were skeptical. Church members confirmed her sporadic attendance, but couldn't verify her presence on the day in question. As detectives probed further, Marlene's composure began to crack. When asked about her history of marriages and financial schemes, she grew defensive, insisting her past had no bearing on the present. "Yes, I've made mistakes," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But I love Jessica. She was my daughter, no matter what." Pressed on her knowledge of the affair, Marlene initially denied any awareness, but later conceded she had suspicions. She claimed to have confronted Landon weeks earlier, only to be reassured their relationship was purely professional. When detectives presented evidence of her text messages with Jessica, however, Marlene's tone shifted. She accused the investigators of trying to villainize her, insisting she had no role in her daughter's death. Despite her protests, Marlene's demeanor suggested a mix of guilt, anger, and self-preservation. Detectives left the interrogation feeling they had only scratched the surface of her involvement, or lack thereof, in the tragic events surrounding Jessica's murder. As detectives delved deeper into Jessica Danielson's final days, a startling picture began to emerge. Jessica had recently uncovered that her husband, Marcus Danielson, was involved in multiple affairs. With 3 of her closest friends, text messages and social media exchanges revealed a web of betrayal that left her devastated and furious. Marcus, a successful chef, had carefully cultivated an image of creativity, but behind closed doors, he had been juggling secret relationships with women Jessica trusted most. One of the friends involved, a fellow yoga enthusiast, frequently attended Jessica's classes at Pure Bliss Yoga Studio. Another, a PTA board member at a local school, had been a guest at countless family gatherings. The third, a downtown boutique owner, and had even accompanied Jessica on a recent shopping trip to Aruba. Detectives found evidence that Jessica had learned of these affairs just days before her death, stumbling upon incriminating photos and messages while borrowing Marcus's iPhone when he was in the shower. Jessica had been quietly preparing to confront Marcus. Notes found in her journal showed she was planning to expose his infidelities publicly. One entry read, "I deserve better than this bleep. Time to end the lies." Her close friend, who spoke anonymously to reporters, revealed Jessica had considered airing Marcus's dirty laundry during an upcoming dinner party with mutual friends, where all three women were expected to attend. At the same time, Jessica was grappling with her own moral dilemma. Her affair with Landon Prescott, her much younger stepfather, had become an emotional and physical entanglement she could no longer justify. According to messages uncovered on her phone, Jessica had resolved to end the relationship and come clean to her mother, Marlene. A draft text found in her unsent folder read, "Landon, we need to stop this. It's wrong, and I can't hurt my mom anymore." Detectives speculated that Jessica's dual plans for confrontation, one with Marcus and the other involving Landon and Marlene, could have set the stage for her tragic death. Her emotional turmoil was evident in her communications. She alternated between anger and guilt, struggling to navigate the chaos her discoveries had unleashed. Friends and acquaintances described Jessica as a woman determined to regain control of her life. Her final posts on Instagram hinted at a longing for peace. Tragically, Jessica never got the chance to confront Marcus, end her affair, or reveal the truth to her mother. Marcus Danielson was more than just Jessica's husband. He was a local celebrity in Minneapolis. As the head chef and owner of Uga, a high-end new Nordic-inspired restaurant, he had earned a reputation for his culinary artistry. Uga, named after the Danish word for hearth, was a favorite among food critics and gourmands alike. Marcus's signature dish, salmon toothpaste, a delicate blend of smoked salmon mousse served in an edible tube alongside rye bread crisps, was both praised and mocked for its avant-garde presentation. At $59 a plate, the dish made waves when it was featured on the Netflix series Somebody Feed Phil in 2018, with host Phil Rosenthal calling it the weirdest thing I've ever eaten. But somehow it works. Despite his professional success, Marcus's personal life was a mess of infidelity and self-indulgence. Investigators uncovered that Marcus had been leading a double life, having sex with multiple women daily. Some days, as many as 6 women would meet him at Wuga, the private lounge behind Uga, a space ostensibly reserved for VIP diners, but often used for Marcus's personal exploits. Shockingly, among these women were 3 of Jessica's closest friends, women who had shared meals, vacations, and milestones with her. When confronted, Marcus defended his behavior with a nonchalant shrug, claiming it was a reflection of his Danish upbringing. In Denmark, he told detectives, monogamy is considered backward, even stupid. Sex is natural, even with friends and family. It's perfectly normal to have sex with people you care about, brothers, sisters, everybody. We're not Puritan like you Americans. This reasoning, however, didn't hold much weight with law enforcement, nor did it comfort those who had been hurt by his actions. Jessica's discovery of Marcus's affairs deeply disturbed her, especially when she realized the betrayal extended to her inner circle. A message she had drafted on her phone captured her frustration. "How could you do this with my friends? Was nothing sacred?" Detectives speculated that Jessica had planned to confront Marcus about his behavior and make his infidelities public, a move that could have jeopardized his career and reputation. When police questioned Marcus about Jessica's death, his confidence seemed to waver for the first time. They pressed him not only on his affairs, but also on allegations that he had used August funds to finance luxury gifts for his lovers, including jewelry from Tiffany & Co. and designer handbags. While Marcus initially remained calm, witnesses said his demeanor shifted as detectives dug deeper into his personal and financial life. His usual bravado cracked, revealing a man unprepared for the consequences of his actions. Marcus's fall from grace became a key thread in the investigation, turning the spotlight on a man whose ambition and appetite for excess had left a trail of destruction in its wake. Jessica Danielson's murder shocked Minneapolis not only for its brutality, but for the weapon used. Police determined that Marlene Peterson, Jessica's mother, had killed her by beating her to death with the porcelain rim of a toilet. This gruesome detail came to light after forensic experts matched fragments of shattered porcelain found embedded in Jessica's skull with the toilet in her ensuite bathroom. Detectives pieced together the events of Jessica's final moments through a combination of forensic evidence, witness statements, and Marlene's own contradictions during questioning. The bathroom was a chaotic scene, bloody handprints on the walls, a broken mirror, and the toilet left partially detached from its base. Investigators theorized that a heated argument between mother and daughter escalated into a deadly confrontation. Marlene, already enraged by Jessica's affair with her husband, Landon, may have snapped when Jessica threatened to expose the truth. Police zeroed in on Marlene after ruling out Landon and Marcus as potential suspects. Both men provided weak alibis but lacked the physical evidence tying them directly to the crime scene. Marlene, however, had scratches on her arms consistent with a struggle. In her initial statements, she claimed she was attending a born-again prayer meeting at a local evangelical church at the time of the murder. But detectives discovered discrepancies in her story. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station showed her car parked near Jessica's apartment during the estimated time of death. When confronted, Marlene's demeanor shifted from defiance to despair. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she reportedly said during questioning. Detectives pushed harder, presenting her with the evidence: the fragments of porcelain, the bloodstains, and her own physical injuries. Under pressure, Marlene confessed, claiming, "No one bleeps with me and gets away with it. Not even my bleeping daughter," and that she didn't intend to kill her. The arrest of Marlene Peterson made headlines across Minnesota. Known to some as a charismatic grifter, she maintained a polished facade that crumbled under scrutiny. Her mugshot, showing a tear-streaked face and a vacant stare, became a symbol of a family tragedy gone horribly wrong. As police led her away in handcuffs, Marlene reportedly muttered, "I was only trying to protect myself." Whether this was a genuine sentiment or an attempt to deflect blame, it did little to soften public perception. The once glamorous socialite now faced the grim reality of life behind bars. In November 2019, the trial of Marlene Peterson began. Facing charges of first-degree murder in the brutal killing of her daughter, Jessica Danielson, Marlene's defense was built around a claim of self-defense. Her attorney, James Rogers, argued that Jessica had attacked Marlene during an intense confrontation about Jessica's affair with Marlene's husband, Landon. According to Marlene, Jessica became enraged when she was confronted about ending the affair and exposing everything to her mother. Marlene's defense suggested that in that moment, Jessica was about to kill her, and Marlene was forced to act in self-defense. Marlene testified in court, describing a heated argument that escalated quickly. She claimed that Jessica lunged at her with a large knife, forcing Marlene to defend herself. It was kill or be killed. Marlene told the jury, her voice trembling with emotion, "I had to do something before she got to me." However, prosecutors painted a very different picture. They argued that the murder was premeditated and that Marlene had been planning the attack for days, perhaps even weeks. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Allison Becker, presented evidence that contradicted Marlene's claim of self-defense. They pointed out that there was no knife found at the scene, and the physical evidence suggested a violent, calculated attack. The shattered toilet rim and Marlene's injuries were inconsistent with the scenario of self-defense, the prosecution argued. Furthermore, Marlene's motive to silence her daughter's knowledge of her affair with Landon was clear. The trial was widely covered by local media in Minneapolis, with many following the dramatic courtroom scenes closely. Marlene's story of a mother forced to kill her daughter to save herself was seen by some as a tragic tale, but for many, the evidence spoke for itself. After days of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict. Marlene Peterson was found guilty of second-degree murder. The jury had deliberated for less than 2 days, rejecting her self-defense claim in favor of the prosecution's argument that Marlene had acted out of a mixture of rage and fear of exposure. At her sentencing in December, Judge Daniel Roberts sentenced Marlene to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom was silent as Marlene was led away in handcuffs, her face a mask of disbelief. Her attorney, James Rogers, made a statement to the press, claiming that Marlene would appeal the verdict, though the chances of success seemed slim. Jessica's surviving family members expressed their relief at the sentence, though the pain of her loss would never fully heal. Marlene Peterson's life as a wealthy socialite had ended in the most tragic of ways, and her name would forever be associated with the brutal murder of her daughter. In November 2019, Marlene Peterson's life changed forever when she was sentenced to 25 years in prison for the murder of her daughter, Jessica Danielson. After the trial, Marlene's wealth and social standing, once the envy of many in Minneapolis, were replaced by the harsh reality of life behind bars. As Marlene began serving her sentence at the Shakopee Correctional Facility, she was cut off from her luxurious lifestyle. Reports indicated that her once prominent social connections slowly distanced themselves from her, and her name became synonymous with tragedy rather than success. Meanwhile, Marcus Danielson, Jessica's husband, and a well-known chef in the local culinary scene, faced a separate, though no less devastating, fate. Known for his restaurant, Oga, which was featured on Netflix Everybody Feed Phil, Marcus had been a rising star in Minneapolis food scene. His signature dish, salmon toothpaste, had earned him praise and a loyal following. However, Marcus' reputation crumbled in the wake of the trial. News of his infidelities, including his affairs with Jessica's closest friends, became public. The details of his promiscuity, including having sex with 6 women a day, sent shockwaves through the community. Many in the local restaurant industry criticized his behavior, and his position at Oga became untenable. By the end of 2019, he had sold the restaurant and moved out of the city, his reputation in tatters. As for Landon, Marlene's much younger husband, his life also took a downward turn. Landon had gained some fame as a relationship coach, posting shirtless motivational videos online in an attempt to attract clients. However, the revelation that his business was a scam designed to lure people into investing in his worthless cryptocurrency made him a target of public ridicule. With no career prospects and his marriage to Marlene unraveling, Landon was left to pick up the pieces of his shattered life. By the time the year ended, he was reportedly living in a small apartment in St. Paul, far from the attention he once craved. Together, these 3 individuals, once central figures in a world of luxury and success, found themselves caught in the web of their own actions, facing lives of ruin and isolation. Jessica Danielson's story serves as a chilling reminder of how tangled relationships and hidden betrayals can lead to unspeakable tragedy. Join us next time on True Crime Case Files as we unravel another haunting mystery.